Hello, agentpreneurs, and welcome to episode 72 of the Daily List Report. I can't believe it's been 72 episodes since we started this labor of love here at List Reports. Today, we've got an incredible show for you. We've got Herman Chan on. Herman is a top agent in the Bay Area. I know all of you love to learn from top agents and how they do what they do, how they built their brand. So we're going to have a great conversation with Herman in just a moment. Before we do that, you're watching this on our YouTube channel right now. We're growing nicely. Thank you all for your support, for your comments, for your likes. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you share this channel with those around you because everybody can learn from these great speakers that we have on. So I'm going to bring Herman on in just a moment. I've got his website up here right now. If you go to hermanchan.com, you can learn all about Herman. He's with Golden Gate Sotheby's. He's a top 0.5% nationally ranked realtor according to Real Trends by Wall Street Journal and Zillow. Ranked top 100 realtors in sales volume by San Francisco Magazine. 2017 top 100 influential by Inman News. He's brokered, I think now $600 million in property. It's incredible, and we're lucky to have him on the show today. So without further ado, Herman, why don't you say hello to the agentpreneurs of List Reports?
Hi guys, it's Miss Herman. I'm here to answer questions.
Amazing, Herman. So we were just talking about this. You said, thank God you had a blazer, right? Otherwise, we would be twinsies.
Right. Look, we're twins. And look, our glasses, our
It's
hair.
amazing. I just got a haircut. Otherwise, it would have been a little bit spikier like yours.
I need one. So okay, you got me. Got me there.
I love that. Herman, thanks so much for taking time today. So, for all of you out there, Herman was introduced to us by Kenny Trong. Kenny was on the show last week. Check out his amazing episode. He is the fast agent. And this is another lesson in networking, right? People will introduce you to people who will introduce you to people. And so, I'm always working that network, and I'm super grateful to have Herman on today. Hey, Herman, why don't we start here? Can you talk for just maybe a couple minutes? Just introduce yourself. How did you get into real estate? Why are you so good at it? Let's just start at the highest level and get a chance for everyone to get to know you.
Oh, I'm still learning day by day. So don't toot my horn too much. I guess in a nutshell, Bay Area, born and raised. I went to Mission San Jose High School in Fremont, which was this crazy Tiger Mom school. And then I went to Berkeley, graduated in 2000. And then I'm sure many of you remember, or maybe not. I don't know what your demographic age
All
you
over the place.
all over the place, but 2000 was dot bomb,
Yes.
and then 9/11. So we graduated into this like very uncertain world, kind of like now. Um, and so I literally was didn't know what to do with myself. I graduated. I got a job at Berkeley from out of Berkeley, being recruited by Gap Inc. corporate.
Yep.
And in 19, I know Gap is not great right now. Although they signed with Kanye.
Did they really?
Yeah, they did. Kenya's doing a line for them. Amazing, right? Or maybe not amazing. Anyways, allegedly our future president. But no, at the time they were at their peak powers, and I signed there to work as an analyst at Gap Incorporate. And in 3 months, girl, I left.
Really?
Left. I was like, you know what? This is just not. This is just too much for me. Like, let me get this straight. Like, you want to own me 70 hours a week, and I get paid how little? Then not only that, like every incremental bonus or pay increase I have to do, I have to like, brown nose this supervisor who I don't like, and what if they leave? I mean, it was really clear to me that as a very independent person, the corporate life was just not for me. And Gap
Yeah.
was actually very progressive in many ways. So even if I couldn't even survive a Gap, mind
Right.
you, it was like obviously red flag, red flag. Nothing against Gap though. I mean, like it was so. I just left. I turned my back on corporate America, all of my upbringing, all of my SAT testing, all of my use to Berkeley. I just said I can't deal with this. I mean that track that I was like prepared to do for 22 years of my life. I just
Yeah.
said life is too. I don't know. So I didn't know what to do with myself, girl. I was like just lost the house. But my mom was like, why don't you just get your license and sell a couple homes here and there while you study for your MCATs or your MCAT or whatever the hell cats out there.
Whatever, cat.
So, right, very Asian. So I got my license and I just started selling left and right. And by the time things started kind of like getting back to normal, my mom was like, "So where are those courses are at? I bought you all these courses," and I'm like, "Why would I go back to spending the next 3 to 10 years of my life
Yeah.
accumulating 500K of debt and student loans, or whatever, wasting my 20s when I'm making bank already, having a gay old time, helping people find homes? Like, why would I go back to that? That makes no damn sense."
Wait, now Herman, back up for a second. So is your family in real estate? Is that how you got introduced to it?
They have their licenses, but they have other regular jobs, like, financial and engineering, very, typical
Yes.
Asian immigrant type thing. So, but they had their licenses just to save money back in the 80s because, they're being cheap. But yeah, so and I have some other family members in the business too, but yeah.
Got it. So you started selling homes and then you kind of never looked back, you know.
Well, it was supposed to be an interim thing. I never really thought I was gonna do it. Like, if you told me in 2000 or 2001 that I would still be hawking homes in
Right.
2020 at 42-year-old, I would
Yep.
laugh. But no, I'm still here. But it was always an interim thing, frankly, and I never really took it completely seriously because I'd always had other aspirations. I knew what I was going to do with my life. I thought I was still going to law school or something, and
Right.
I also had a lot of like aspirations, like showbiz stuff, because I'm kind of a quirky person, as you can tell, and I was doing video blogging too, way before people were doing Snap or Insta stories. Like, I was actually, this is like back when the day when phones were like bricks, almost not
Oh
bricks, but,
yes.
and
I
so I
remember.
was doing like videos for real estate for a blog called Habitat for Humanity.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And so I would book out TV studios, and I would hire editors. It was like a full thing. I was spending thousands of dollars on just to produce like a 1 or 2 minute clip, which nowadays we can do like in 2 seconds on your phone, right?
Yeah.
But I was really ahead of that like curve. Um, and I just got a lot of attention from that because no one else was really doing it at the time. And that's when HGTV tapped me for an episode for House Hunters, and I did a ton of episodes for them. And then I did a pilot called Power Brokers with them. I've had pilots left and right which have been like signed, but nothing ever picked up. But my
Sure.
point is that it just kind of got like momentum, and then whenever the press needs a little soundbite, like New York Times or Wall Street Journal will call me. So it just kind of like, it was never planned. I'm sure your viewership was asking for some like bullet point master plan, but it really wasn't. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, and I found my way of doing it. And when I was doing the videos, I was told by a lot of people, "Don't do this. You need to be more like buttoned up. You need to no one else is doing this. Like, you need to." I just like, I don't know. I mean, and I really kind of did believe that for the first couple of years of my career because I was starting, I was new. I was trying to be all like little Miss Business woman in my suit and my tie. But then
Yeah.
after the whole crash happened in 2007, 8, I was like, what am I gonna lose? What am I gonna lose? So that's what I just threw caution to the wind and just started doing those videos. And that's honestly what kind of saved me. And then from there, everything kind of started falling into place. And here we are now. So it was all
Yeah.
serendipitous in a way, but I had to be prepared to know that, to take a chance and to kind of march to my own drum beat, or whatever that phrase is, and
Well,
just
Herman,
like, yeah.
just let me interject. I think what's interesting about what you're saying though, and this is I think a consistent message, right? So you're right. A lot of agents are like, just give me the playbook, right? I need to make 27 phone calls and 6 touches, whatever those things are. That's fine. But where I focused a lot on this show is how do you understand your why, who you are, right? And I think what you're saying at the end of the day is you were just yourself, right? So you were doing the things that you love, you were doing things that were authentic to who you were, and obviously it worked out really well. Do you agree with that?
Yes, there's no other way at this point, because I believe that maybe in prior generations in real estate, there was a time, even not even real estate in general, you could have a private life, you could have a business life. The two
Yes.
never really intersected. But now with the whole social media literally invading our lives and taking over, there's no way you can hide. Before, they would tell you like 10 years ago, have a business account, have a business.
Right.
There's no, you can't. And so at that point, you either are going to like go into hiding and no one can find you, which means you don't exist in their mind as a
Yep.
business person, or you just throw it out there. You have to just capitalize on what's happening in the world right now. I mean, right now, I just to kind of like be a little like social commentator. I feel
Sure.
like we're back the opposite way. Because there was this privacy in the beginning, and this whole social media, internet thing for the past 10 years just blew up. And now there's too much junk, all this white noise, hackers, yada yada. It's just too much. And so now I think there's going to be a big move, and it's happening now, even like back to like a very privatized groups. Like even Facebook is starting like a new thing. I heard that it's all private. You know, Craigslist and all those things which are so open. Everything's hacked nowadays, and so even like finding housing, people go to their internal corporate websites to look for it. No one's really out there any much. And if you look at the Gen X people, I mean, Gen Z people, they're privatizing a lot of their accounts too, because it's just, I think
Yes.
people are so scarred by what is happening. And if you know what's out there, the evil lurkers out there and whatever, it's very like scary. So, but that's just me, again, my MO of having to put myself out there for the past 5 to 7 years during the rise of social media. I have to adjust myself now again to understanding what the cultural zeitgeist is, and it's more private, it's more procured, it's more a curated sphere.
That's actually that's really interesting. I haven't had somebody bring that perspective, right? So I think what you're saying, Herman, right, is that over the last 5, 6, 7 years, right, you're right, it was very transparent, right? Like I'm assuming the lines were extremely blurred between maybe what you would post that you were doing for fun on a Saturday night as well as, you know, an open house, just as an example.
Right.
And so what you're saying is that now, and I've seen this too, right? Instagram, you know, with obviously private accounts, like there's a lot more, or ephemeral messaging, which obviously was
Yes.
popularized ages ago by Snapchat and others, right? That there's actually a move to close that down. So
Yes.
what do you advise an agent today who's saying, okay, I need to be more active on social media? Do they go broad, or are you saying that they go more focused? Like what kind of advice do you have for an agent today who's trying to build out their social media?
Well, I'm not a social media queen. Like, I really feel that there's people out there who do it 10 times better than me, like Kenny. And I don't have a Snapchat. I'm not on TikTok. So I'm really like probably a grandpa when it comes to social media. But I think the principles are still the same. So, um, you know, I'll give you a story. So Kenny and I were actually on a panel many, many, many years ago. And they were asking the same question, like, tell me your MO, how do you do your business? And Kenny was talking about his way, and I was talking about my way, and people weren't kind of getting it because they were trying to like put us in. They were just trying to have a simple answer. And then
Yes.
someone in the audience said, "No, there's two different ways. Kenny's like a machete, online leads, you know, Zillow leads. It's just, you
Yeah.
know, out there, and you hopefully a couple of them will hit enough to, you know, volume. And then Herman is more like sniper. You know, if I select you as a client or a lead, I will like, it's because I did my research. I'm going to strike and I'm going to like hit my target, as opposed to just a little more like, so it's nothing right or wrong about that. But nowadays, because things are changing, I think everyone's going to be going towards like what I'm going through right now is like, you're going to like aggregate the people who are your sphere within your social media. And that's what you're going to be like farming and keeping in contact with. So it's almost like going back to the normal. The pendulum swung from all the way to the right, and now it's back in the middle somewhere. So social media is just an online Rolodex. You have to be careful about who you're letting in, and the people who are in there. I feel like there's part of something special. Because before you would brag about how many users you have, how many Facebook followers. Nobody cares because that's all like just fake news nowadays. You know, there's a
Yeah.
bots and stuff like that. So no, that doesn't impress anybody now. You want engagement. You want all these other algorithms that people are using to like to
Yeah.
determine your you know success. And the fact of the matter is, the great thing about privatization is that no one really is judging you on how many users you have. It's almost better that you don't have many, because if you have too many, it looks suspicious.
Yeah.
You know. And then when it's so open on Facebook, people like, you know, the trolls out there will just like savage you for the wrong thing you said. Not even the wrong thing, whatever perception, you know, cancel culture is out there. But with
Yeah.
like private messaging, ephemeral messaging, it's a little more, you know, insular, and a great way to kind of connect with your clients that way. So, you know, we're at an inflection point. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all kind of pans out in the next couple of
Herm,
years.
yeah, no, it's actually a really interesting point, and actually, I'm sure you know this. A lot of people watching probably don't know this, that Instagram has largely rolled out, though not completely, removing like counts, right? And so that's exactly to that point, that this is about creating good content and engagement. And there's so many ways to game the system that, many of you probably are seeing on Instagram, even if you haven't noticed, that maybe if one of your friends liked the same post, you'll see that, but you actually don't see a full count of likes because they're trying to move away from those metrics. But Herman, you said something else which is really interesting, right? If you look at like Kenny, we'll call him the machete, right? And you're the sniper, right? I think all of you listening have to determine and decide what kind of an agent you are or want to be. Because you're right, Kenny is all over like the Zillow leads and the this and the that. And he said, though, which is interesting, and you haven't seen his show yet, Herman, but what he said to me last week is that for the first time ever over the last 3 or 4 months, most of his business is coming through referrals. Mm-hmm. So there's some tipping point there, right? Yes. But I just think it's really interesting in terms of the approach.
Well, that makes sense because like when I first met Kenny, I already had like a 7 to 10 year lead on him. So when you're in the business, I say anywhere from like, because when do people sell their house again? Or they say 7 years, give or take ish, right? You buy a house and like average maybe
7 to 9 years, yeah.
Give or take ish. So that makes perfect sense. If you are in the business for that long and you're not getting any referrals, you're doing a bad job. Yeah. After a certain point in time, you should be getting like the leads coming in. So it makes sense. He's been in the business for I think 7 to 10 years. So it's obviously that's what's happening to him, which is great for him. Yeah. And then there are these other agents who've been in the business for 30 years, but they're constantly advertising and having, because no one wants to reuse them. So they have to always reach out for tentacles to like get their next, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the best lead is someone that's a warm lead.
Absolutely. The customer you've already acquired, right, is your best customer.
Right. So, yeah.
Sorry, Herman, I don't mean to interrupt you, but just to that point, which is really interesting also, is that I think agents notoriously are bad at follow-up. So if you look at that, actually, according to NAR, it's 9 years, right? So if somebody's going to buy a house from you and then it's going to be 9 years until they, in theory, could have another transaction with you, agents are pretty terrible at staying top of mind during that process. Even within the company, 2 of my partners, they can't remember the names of the agent they bought a house from 9 years ago. And that's a shame, right? Yeah. So when you think about staying in front of people, staying top of mind, making sure they remember you, how do you do that?
Well, you're right. I think the statistic is, I think a seller, 18% of sellers reuse
yes, I think you're right.
That they originally bought from or something, which is a terrible...
It is.
But then again, that's not surprising to me because it's the 90-10, 80-20 rule. Like 80% of the business is done by 10 to 20% of the agents. So that is perfectly aligned. 18 people, probably that 18% is the people who are the top agents. So anyways, top of mind, that again, it just depends on what your demographic is. Like I sell across so many different counties and across different demographics. I'm not like young millennials. I'm not first-time buyers. I have luxury buyers. I also have people who just did a VA loan. So I'm kind of like all over the place. I'm very weird like that. But I make sure I'm very active on my social, my social media, my Instagram, not so much my Facebook anymore, but because there's a very clear engagement there. Yeah. And I also think that it's important to cement because the social media space is too much noise though. So yeah. So I mean, I still mail them like things every quarter, a magazine. I also do like cards for their birthdays and also for the holidays. So it's like a mix of like the new and the old. You cannot rely entirely on either. I really should do a better job of like calling people up, but I'm just not a phone call person, and I don't think my clients in this area. If you call me, it's like it should better be 911. It's pretty much. I know back in the day before COVID, I would always be like taking people to dinner or lunch. It's like if I'm gonna eat anyways, I might as well be eating with a client or a prospect. So I'm very kind of hands-on that way.
Well, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, and I think it's for those listening to pull from these nuggets of wisdom, right? Things that work from them. I had a friend from a long time ago, I used to do some work with, his name is Keith Ferrazzi, and he's a pretty well-known guy. He was the youngest CMO ever of a Fortune 500 company. There's a Harvard Business School case study written about him, but he wrote a book called Never Eat Alone. And it's kind of like that, right? You're like, I have to eat anyways. I might as well eat with somebody that is in my business, I can learn from or whatever.
Keith Ferrazzi,
yeah.
Yes, I know him. Yes, he's a friend of mine.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, he's great, right? And he does a good job of that. In fact, he would have meetings with myself or colleagues or whatever where he was like, "Okay, we're gonna meet at the gym and work out, right? While we talk, right?" So he's just very, very good about those kinds of things.
Right. Yeah, so I agree. I mean, maximize your time. If you're gonna eat anyways, you might as well use that time to like network, make a connection again. Although that's different now in COVID, but the point is that it's a mixture of in person, hard copy, and also online. There's not one way for me at least. I know there's people who do it completely online. I'm too. I think my strength is like being in person when I'm with them face to face. I cast my spell. Great, but if I'm like sending out a bunch of like millions of email blasts and this and that, I just feel like even if they respond, I feel like they're talking to 10 other agents too at the same time. You think I'm the only one they're talking to? I mean, my God.
Yeah.
And then they're usually like bottom feeders. They're like, hopping around. They're usually trolling on Yelp. I just really don't vibe as much with those clients. I would say 99% of my business is referral now.
Yeah.
And that 1%, which is not referral, that came out just random, they're always, it's never as enjoyable. I don't know. It's just, yeah. I don't know
Yeah.
them. I don't know them. So, and vice versa.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Herman, one of the things that you have, I would imagine, proudly displayed on your website is 153 perfect 5-star reviews. So, how do you think about the role of reviews? Because it's important. Clearly, it's important, right? But how do you get that? How do you think about the role of online reputation?
Well, like I said earlier, we're in the era of cancel culture, so you have to really stay on top of it. For the longest time, maybe 10 years ago, I ignored them. I ignored online reviews. Yelp was just starting. They were very popular in the business in the restaurant sector, but not really in real estate.
Yeah,
And I just thought, oh, I'm on TV. I'm a top producer. I'm impervious to anything. So I never really courted it at all. And then one day I wake up and get a Google alert on my phone, and I'm thinking, oh God, it's probably going to be another glowing press write up about me or whatever. No, it was a Yelp review, 1 star.
really.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, M goddess, what am I going to do? So I had no idea, and I looked it up. I mean, it was terrible because like it was all fabricated. This person wrote like 3 pages about me, saying how I had double ended a deal, which I didn't do, and how I promised the houses to them during the open house, which doesn't make any sense. Anyways, it was just this person, and there was nothing I could do about it. I talked to Yelp. I talked to my PR person at the time. There's nothing. They're like, we can help you. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I had to have a fast lesson in I need to manage my social online reputation. Eventually, though, literally, I did get that removed. It was removed by, I think they flagged it like in a week because apparently he wrote like 10 other reviews at
see.
5 stars, one line. And then mine was like all of a sudden like three, so it got flagged. But for that week, I was literally, and there's no way that I could ever compete against Yelp SEO. I mean, I'm a little dinky little realtor. I mean, like, there's no way, right?
Right.
Mine would always be associated with that. So one of my strategies was, you have to just keep getting, at the time when I thought I was going to have only 1 star review, I had to just keep getting more and more and to bury it and to kind of get the average up.
Exactly.
It's a terrible position that we have to be in now, but that is the reality of life at this point. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do Google reviews and Yelp. I don't do Zillow because I'm not really a Zillow person. But yeah.
Yeah. No.
It is very important. People do vet you, and even if they don't tell you that, before they even call you, they've already like stalked you for at least 3 months, give or take. I think the statistic is.
Yes.
So by the time they call you, you think that that's like your first point of contact. No, they've already, unless you see something really bad, you pretty much are like maybe 80% there. So yeah, I mean,
it's true. It's true. And I think when we talk about practical tips, and I know this may sound silly, but for those of you watching right now, if you haven't Googled yourself, you need to do that, right? If you haven't searched to see what a consumer finds when they look for you, because they are looking for you, make sure you understand that. What facet of your Facebook page can they see, right? Is your Instagram public or private? What kind of reviews maybe already exist out there? You need to do that because this is exactly what they're doing either before they meet you or after they meet you, pretty much immediately on their drive home, right? Like they are looking at this stuff. So make sure that you're checking that out.
Set up Google alerts too.
And oh, that's a great point, Herman. Great point. Set up a Google alert. Just Google it, ironically, but if you Google it, it's very easy to do. You can put your name in there, you can put some qualifying words, and they'll actually email you when there's something that matches those terms. So, Herman, thank you. That's a really great point. Make sure you set up a Google alert for your name, your company, whatever is important to you. Herman, as we wrap up here, I kind of have one last topic, which is we're in the midst of this really insane time right now, right? Absolutely insane, and sadly, it's not getting better, right? So we are going to have to live with this for some time. So when you're talking to other agents in your company or people on your team, whatever, what are you talking about right now? Like, what does the outlook look like, or what are you doing differently? Do you have any thoughts about what's going on right now and kind of what you're doing to adjust?
This is going to sound very un-PC, and I don't want to come off sounding like I'm unempathetic at all, but I have never been busier in my 20-year career.
Wow.
And I've heard this from other kind of top producers too, so I know it's not just me.
I have too.
A lot of the busy work is kind of like the whole COVID forms. It's a little more paperwork in terms of like qualifying people, but I kind of feel like what happened is everyone is in the market when everything's honky-dory, okay? Everyone's in the middle of the road driving down this path. But what happened with this whole COVID thing is a big boulder came rolling down the hill, squashed itself right in the middle of the road. So what did people do? Half the people, there's a bifurcation of demographics. One's like, I'm going to sit here and wait till it's over. It's just too risky. Like, wait for the popo to come. And then there's other people who will wait for a little bit. And they're like, you know what? I got places to go. I got things to do. I'm going to drive through it. I'm going to go around it, above it. So really, the demographic of person who is in the market now is different. Although the numbers may be less, the people who are kind of like opportunistic and voluntaristic are striking hard right now. And I think that's what's keeping people afloat, the market, at least in my area. And the people who are very conservative or skittish, or their money is like funny money or something like that, they're gone.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, but those are kind of qualifying demographic data you don't see when the numbers are pushed out. You just see like, oh, the numbers are static, or the housing prices are kind of keeping steady or whatever. But it's really not. It's in flux right now through the flow of consumers. So I'm thinking, look, it's not your job to sell or to save the economy. It's not your job to sell 500 homes, or as long as you're selling a decent amount to pay your bills and to move forward, you're going to be okay. No one's asking anyone to set, and there are certain buyers or agents rather who are very sensitive to what happens in the world. Not agents, just people in general. Like they get so obsessed with what's happening on their feed and the CNN and but you know what? Just stay focused on what you're doing. You don't even if you sell 10 homes a year, for most people that's a lot.
Yeah.
That is okay. And you know what? People have sold through worse.
Yeah.
World War II, interest rates in the 80s were like 12,
crazy.
16%. I mean, like, yeah.
We're going to be okay.
You're going to be okay? But I just, yeah. If you're just looking at how many deals you do, I mean, you know 5 people at least who want to buy something in your sphere. Focus on them.
Yeah. No, I think it makes a lot of sense. We had a guest on a couple days ago, and we have super short inventory, right? I mean, prices are increasing actually at pre-COVID levels right now. That's the latest data, from Realtor.com, and that's because there's no inventory. So if you can get out there and you can talk to your sellers who are on the fence, and you can be empathetic, and you can be an advocate for right now, it's a great time actually to sell your house, frankly, right? So getting listings is there's a great opportunity for that if you take the right steps. But I think your advice makes a lot of sense, Herman. And I like why you put it with the boulder, right? Like there's some agents right now who are just going to plow right through that thing or climb over it or get creative. Those are the ones who are going to succeed. Hey, Herman, thank you so much for joining today. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Our agents are going to love hearing from you and hearing your story. So thank you for sharing. Very, very grateful for you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Herman, best of luck, and hopefully we'll see you real soon, okay?
Bye.
Bye, Herman. Well, that was fantastic. So, like I said, go to hermanchan.com. Just look at how he positions himself, his brand. Obviously, he's a very particular kind of agent in terms of super very luxury market. He's in the Bay Area, but there's so many, I think, great points that he made in terms of what you can be doing right now to hone in and build your brand, the changes that are happening in social media, and a bunch of things like that. If you didn't watch Kenny's episode, that's how I met Herman again. Watch last Thursday's episode with Kenny. It was incredible, and you can see the machete approach as opposed to, as Herman put it, the sniper approach. So until tomorrow, be safe, be healthy, be happy, and we'll see you soon.